Hey,
Oh, yeah.
so just a notice, I'm starting the recording right now. So Engineering World Health, it's a national organization and it's a US based nonprofit. And their main goal is to engage skills and passions for students and also, but predominantly to improve healthcare delivery in low income communities. They have basically two ways that they do that. So one of them is what we do, which is through their university chapters. And they also have summer programs, which some of the people in the university chapters go to, which focuses on applying engineering technology and make sure that countries are supported to maintain the technology that is applied. And for the university chapters, we mainly encourage education and building useful skills that would not only aid you in like professional development, but also to fulfill the goal of healthcare delivery. We do that through through project teams as well as through other events, and we'll go through that.
So just as a quick run through, we're gonna go through and introduce you guys to our board members for this year. So I'm Lauren, I am this year's president. I am a bioengineering biosystems major and a global health minor. And I am going to be a senior this coming year.
Hey everyone, I'm Hafa. I'm VP Internal. I'm also a bioengineering biosystems major, and I'm gonna be a senior as well this year.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm the VP Finance. I'm a computer science major, and I'm going to be a junior this upcoming year.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christy. I am the project manager for this year, and I'm a bioengineering biosystems major, minoring in design. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zena. I'm the eBoard intern, and I'm a third-year bioengineering bioinformatics major.
Hi all, my name is Delilah. I'm going to be one of the project team leads, and I'm a bioengineering major and an incoming second-year transfer.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna. I'm the webmaster, so I take care of the website. I'm a bioinformatics major under the biology department, and I'm going to be an upcoming sophomore.
Hi, I'm Josh. I'm the EWH 101 chair, and the EWH 101 is just this talk we hold every quarter. I'm a molecular and cell biology major, and I am an upcoming sophomore.
Doesn't look like we have Rita on the call. So Rita is our socials chair for this coming year. She is, I want to say biology. Oh, I don't remember what her major is, but she is also a incoming sophomore. Christy, do you want to talk about project teams?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I forgot to say my year now that I realized. I'm gonna be a fifth year, so a senior. So project teams, yeah. So every year we have about 5 projects within the organization. These projects are made up of like 4 to 6 members, and they're all projects related to sort of like building a low cost solution to a public health problem in a low resource setting. We usually try to find like a community and a specific problem that needs to be solved in that community, and then every single team kind of comes up with a solution to that with a project and creates a prototype. These prototypes vary a lot within different teams. We don't expect everyone to have like a super functional product, but it is a very cool learning experience because you are sort of exposed to a lot of different kind of like skill sets while working on these projects. At the end of the year, these projects are submitted to the EWH design competition. It's a competition where like all the different chapters that Hafa mentioned at the beginning kind of participate in, and it's a really cool experience. And so yeah, that is kind of how it works. Sina is going to talk a little bit more about our projects last year.
Yeah, so I'm going to mention the 5 projects that we had last year, starting with portable microscopy. And so for that one, it was basically using an ML algorithm, machine learning, to analyze stool samples for parasites. The portable infant warmer was for infants in Nepal. The gait analyzing insoles was to check imbalances when people walk. The vaccine cold storage system is to preserve vaccines when they needed to be transported in rough terrain. And the water sterilization was to create a water filter to increase access to fresh water in third world countries.
So for this year, sorry, can you go back really quick, I guess? So for this year, we are looking at different projects. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of difference between last year because of the virtual thing. But some of the topics that we're looking at in projects for this year include COVID-19 sanitation projects, health applications, neonatal health, rehabilitation, software, and training. So it's like there's different topics that we're looking at. Obviously, we'll talk about it more throughout this info session, but just for you to get an idea of some of the projects this year.
So besides the projects, we also have a couple of events that happen a couple times a quarter. We have workshops. So these are smaller events that are meant for everyone in the org to build their skills. So some of the workshops, and we try to vary it between technical skills and soft skills, but we also try to set them up so that it will also help you with your projects. So some of the workshops that we have done before are soldering, which you can see the picture up there in the soldering station. We've done some Arduino workshops to help with microcontrollers and learning a little bit more about circuits. We've done a couple of CAD workshops, which is computer aided design. So designing 3D parts so you can print them and using 3D printing. And we've done some resume tips and photo shoots. And then EWH 101, as Josh mentioned, it's a speaker series that we do to make sure that everyone's informed about global health and learning what it means, and as well as trying to combine engineering and global health together. So we invite a couple of professors that are doing research that would be interesting for our students or that can help us learn a little bit more about global health. So some of the past speakers that we've had are Dr. Georgia Kaiser from the Public Health Department. She helps a lot with the water sanitation projects because that's her expertise. Dr. Todd Coleman, David Goff, and Anita Raj, and we'll be having some of those in the upcoming quarter.
So beyond our project teams and the workshops and the speaker series, we also try to collaborate with a few other organizations on campus to put on a few larger scale events for you guys. So really everything that we're doing is aimed at trying to give you guys as much hands-on experience and learning opportunities as we possibly can. So these photos here are from an event that we held last year with Engineers for a Sustainable World, Engineers Without Borders, and the Envisionaries. It was called Sustainathon. So the goal, it was a weekend-long hackathon which basically means we started on Friday night and people signed up, got sorted into teams, and then they got the theme of the weekend. So this was focused around oceans and waterways. And then they were able to brainstorm on Friday night, come in Saturday morning, and start building their projects and trying to get a prototype in a weekend, and then present for a panel of judges on Sunday afternoon and win some cash prizes. So we had a few members participate in this last year, but events like this that we put on or help put on are really a crash course in any skills that we're trying to teach you or any skills that you might learn in the projects. So we really try to encourage all of our members to participate in these as much as we can. So the number one question is, what's this going to all look like this year? So we are still doing our best to figure that out. We are working with some of the larger organizations that oversee student orgs at UCSD, but we're doing our best to meet all the guidelines that need to happen. So projects will be done virtually, at least through fall quarter, and we're making plans for the potential of them being continued virtually throughout the rest of the year. So while it's a bummer that we can't have everyone in person and working in the Maker Studio space and vision and really getting those hands-on skills, we're going to be doing our best to try to get you as many of those skills as we can virtually and in your homes. So all of our events that we're going to be holding are going to be both synchronous and asynchronous as best we can. So like this info session, we're doing it live, but we're also recording, and then we'll be posting it for people who weren't able to make it to this info session. We're really going to be relying heavily on communication and online platforms. So we're going to be communicating our events through email newsletters, or our members use a Slack channel. I'm not familiar with what Slack is. It's like a virtual messaging system, kind of like Messenger, but more aimed towards projects and different groups. But we just ask that you guys are flexible with us. We are doing our best to get as detailed of plans for fall quarter out as soon as we can, but there are still a few holdups that are more on the university level that we're waiting to hear back about. So that being said, we normally, our primary focus for the org is project teams, and only members of the project teams are considered full members of EWH. That being said, this year we know that it could potentially be really difficult to feel like you're going to have the time and capability to be a part of a project team. And we understand that some people might just not feel comfortable doing that or committing that time. So we are going to be doing sort of a general member and a project team member of EWH. So the project team members will be participating in the project teams, but the general members will not necessarily be on a project team, but still be as involved as possible in any other events that we hold, like workshops, 101s, socials, design reviews, anything that we're doing, just not with the time commitment of a project team.
So one question that comes up a lot is, how do we join EWH, or how do I become involved in a student org? We are changing our structure a little bit. So in the past, what we've done is we have an application that's due in the beginning of fall quarter, and we review all those applications because we're placing people into their specific project teams. That being said, because of the remote structure that we're having, we might change that up a little bit and maybe have a more general application and project team application. And then our events are usually open to everyone. It gets more advertised in our internal structure. So usually our members are the ones that come the most to our events, but they are open to everyone on that wants to come. And we try to advertise them throughout the year. We're open to all majors, all skill levels, and experience levels, because as we said before, it's part of our mission to promote education and to teach everyone valuable skills that would help them be successful not only in university but in the future as well. And yeah, so for the application, we're still ironing that out a little bit. We're planning to have it due around week 3 and 4, and that and we'll be doing some more recruitment activities in the beginning of fall. So if you're interested, be sure to look out for that.
So if you're potentially interested, and you're wanting to kind of keep track of us and what we're doing and where we're going to be tabling, and recruiting, we encourage you guys to follow us on one or all of these platforms. We have a mailing list that you can sign up for through our website, which is www.ewh.ucsd.edu. We also have a Facebook page that you can go like, and you can also message us through that. So if you have any questions at any point, you can always message the page and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. We also post a lot of our events on Facebook as well. And we also have a Instagram that we recently created. So that's at EWH_UCSD. So we will also be promoting all of our events there as well. So we had asked you guys for some questions when you filled out the RSVP form. So we tried to pull some of these questions and group them so that we can answer them as best we can for you. Hopefully some of them we've already touched on and started covering, but this is kind of a space where we can go a little bit more in detail for it. This is also a time that if you have any questions as we're going, if we are on a certain topic that you're really interested in, just stop us and either throw it in the chat, we'll be watching that, or you can unmute yourself and let us know what your question is. So, on projects, what kind of, So what kind of projects do we do? We did kind of touch on that a little bit, but they are mostly focused around improving access to healthcare and making health technologies more inexpensive for lower income communities. Let's see, Zena, do you want to talk about time commitment?
Yeah, so for the time commitment, I would say it's about 2 to 3 hours during the week for the actual project, including like meetings, and then 1 hour maybe on the side for your own individual contribution to the project, and then possibly like an hour or two for socials. And so if you add it up all together, it would look around like 8 to 10 hours per week. And so that's just like based on past experiences, and we are trying to shoot for that same amount of time commitment this year. And so we'll definitely be looking for people who can like guarantee that they will be able to show that time commitment and not back out.
And then Christy, do you want to talk about how to get involved a little bit? We already sort of touched on that, but.
Yeah, of course. So how to get involved, I mean, in terms of like the actual organization, Haf already said some of it, like there is an application. Usually in the application, if you are joining a project, we kind of like tell everyone what are the projects that are going to be for that year before the application, so that you can kind of like look at the different projects and see which one is more interesting to you. And usually within the application, we ask people like for their interest in the different projects, and that's sort of how we select who is going to go into which project. So that's how like you usually get into the different projects. This year, because there is going to be sort of like a general team member position that is like not included in the projects, that might be a little bit different, but that is how you usually get involved. As Hafa said, again, a lot of the different events and socials are open to everyone. So that's also like, if you just keep an eye out through our email and through our like different social platforms, you'll get notifications of like the different events that we're creating, and that's how like you can also be more involved.
So yeah, sort of talking about what sort of skills you'll be learning in these projects. The answer is like a lot of different skills. We host a lot of different workshops, and if you attend those, you can learn about all sorts of things, whether that is Arduino or different like programming or building a resume. In particular, you'll be learning a lot about like what your project is actually on. So, for example, last year I was part of the portable microscopy project. So that was really interesting because there's a lot of machine learning stuff, which I didn't know about before. So I did a lot of research and had a lot of hands-on experience with neural networks and deep learning and stuff, which was really cool. A lot of our projects are less coding oriented than that. So you'll get experience using things like AutoCAD, which is kind of like an industry standard for prototyping, like using a computer, and things of that nature, like sort of very engineering focused skills. So yeah, you can learn a lot if you go to our workshops, and also our projects just push you to sort of learn a lot of very more specific types of skills as well.
Delilah, I think the first question.
Yeah, I can definitely tackle the first one. So someone said, I'm very interested in the public health aspect of this org, but I'm unsure how I can contribute if I'm not an engineering major. And the truth is that in the past, we have been very engineering heavy, but at the same time, we try to reach out to as many majors as we can, because in the real world, project teams are composed of a very diverse group of people. You have someone who knows how to build, you have someone who knows how to research, you have someone who knows how to communicate really well and helps like be a liaison between the different people. And so in these project teams, we try to give you a sense of what working on a project team in the real world will be like. So even if you don't have engineering experience, one, this will be a great opportunity for you to pick up some skills if you're interested. But two, you still have a lot to contribute, because a project isn't just about the prototyping or engineering skills. It's also about the research. It's about building connections with community partners or other orgs. If, for example, if your project needs like questions answered by some graduate students on campus that are doing similar research or something like that, it's not just about engineering, it's also about communication, it's also about learning how to work together as a team in general. And I don't think there's anything any project requires you to know beforehand. If there's something that's going on, you're going to be able to learn it on the spot. And if it's challenging, we're all here to help. I learned how to solder for the first time in EWH, and I feel like that's something that's very stereotypical of engineers to already know how to do. So we are interested in having diverse project teams, and people from all walks of life and all majors are absolutely welcome in EWH.
So I agree with Delilah. Following that, I think it's kind of related on how we bring together health and engineering. A big part of that is by having a diverse group of students within our project teams. I think what's really interesting of being in one of those project teams where you have a bunch of people from not only different engineering majors, but also different majors in general, like having a natural science or a public health or even a visual arts major. You get a lot of different perspectives, and so it allows everyone to contribute differently to a project, and usually that makes the project stand out more because you have the varying perspectives. Some of the ways that we try and bridge together global health and engineering is through our projects, which usually they're picked out beforehand and we design a topic, but they can be personalized once you're in that team. We're trying to address problems that are very prominent in healthcare, and there could be some innovation or creativity that could be used to improve that aspect through engineering and problem solving. And we also try to educate everyone on what skills we could use, or how it is done usually in the real world through the EWH 101 talks, which we try to to pick different speakers so that we get that perspective of public or global health, and we get that the technical perspective of engineering.
Yeah, also another thing to add really quickly to that is that within the different projects, as Elila said, there's a lot of different aspects to every project. So there is like a human aspect to it because you are treating a community. You have to know how to like read different things about a community. There is a design aspect to it because you might have to do like sketches and like CAD and all of these things that have more of like an art I guess like background. There is a financing aspect to a project as well. You have to know like, oh, how, like, what is this going to cost? How are you going to deliver this? How are you going to manufacture it? So there's a lot of different questions to every project that include a lot of different majors. So it really doesn't matter what major you are, because you will probably find something that you are more related to that the project needs to be worked on. So don't worry about getting involved if you're not an engineering major.
Not sure who has the next question. Yeah, I think we covered that, how to get involved without being an actual engineering major. Like we said, we're open to everyone, and we really, honestly, our project teams do better when we have a diverse team. When you get a group that's all engineers, sometimes there's problems that you run into that engineers don't know how to solve that. And it might be something that's more design based, it might be something that's finance, it might be something that's more the global health aspect of how do we create an impactful project for a community, and how do we really make sure that what we're doing is going to be helpful to this community. And a lot of times it's a lot easier to do that if you have someone who is more versed in how to do that than an engineer. So, do I need to know how to code to be able to participate? Definitely not. We did have some coding having projects last year, and this year we are looking at a few projects that are going to have some code aspects to them, but it's definitely not a prerequisite. And no skills are a prerequisite for applying and getting in. So like we said earlier, this is an application-based org. So if you do want to be on a project team, you do need to fill out an application, and it's not necessarily a guarantee that you will be placed on a project team. We do need to be picking the people that we think are going to show the most dedication and be the best fit for the projects. But being the best fit for a project isn't necessarily you're coming in with a whole slew of skills already. We're looking for people who are excited about the org and excited about the potential of being on a project and eager to learn skills. I know for myself, I joined as a freshman with absolutely no skills. I think on the application they asked what skills I had, and I was like, I'm good at organizing a calendar and I can sew. That's about all I got for you. So, but I got in and I learned a lot that first year, and it was really a matter of just going out and talking to more experienced members or going to the workshops and saying, I want to learn this, who can teach it to me? And really just going out there and getting the most that you can out of the org.
So we got a question in the chat real quick. It's what happens if you're rejected from a project, but you're interested in the club. So I think as long as with our application process, we can usually tell who is interested in the org, and we're looking for the people who will show dedication and are motivated by our mission and are interested in learning those skills and participating in a project. That being said, if you still end up not being placed in a project, you can still come to our events. You can, and that can show that you are really dedicated and you want to be involved. I think if you don't have the time commitment to be in a project, by all means, you can still come to our events, participate, learn those skills. But if you do think that you have the time commitment to do so and you are showing commitment and you're coming to our events, then I think we could probably still place you in a project, even if it's later on. I think a cool story is that the past president of EWH, I don't think she got in when she first applied. And then she was in another project and she was still really interested in the org. And she ended up being called to join the org like in the middle of the academic year. And she got involved and kept being involved in it to the point where she became president of the org. So it's definitely just showing your dedication.
What has been your favorite part, or what's been the most memorable about working on the project? So we can have each of our officers go through just really briefly and maybe pick one project that you've been a part of that was something cool. So I think for me, I would pick my project that I did second year, which was a thermoelectric generator, which essentially was this circuit idea that would be placed in a beanie on the forehead to try to harness any excess body heat that was being put off by a patient, and between the heat difference of the body and the outside air, create electricity, and then with the goal of storing that to be reused to power a simple heart rate monitor. So sounds very large, sounds crazy. It was. We did not succeed in finishing our project, but what I loved about it was that I learned a lot about the project process that year and learning how to overcome things when it really felt like our project just was not feasible. It really pushed us to try to think outside the box and take what we had been given and try to make something out of it. And then also was it cool that I had a moment that year where two seniors were drawing a circuit on the board, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, that's not right. It's this instead. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm an engineer. I know how to do circuits. So that was my fun moment.
I can go next. But by now I've been part of like 3 projects. At EWH, I also was part of Lauren's project, the thermoelectric generator, and that was cool. I think my most memorable project has to be my first one, because it was kind of like I also had no skills, and my project was to build an oxygen analyzer that would be connected to like an oxygen concentrator for like low resource health facilities. And it was, at first when I saw the project, I was like, what is this? I don't know anything about this. I didn't know how to do circuits or Arduino or anything like that. And for that project, I was in charge of doing the Arduino circuit and the code for it. And like achieving that, like being able to build the prototype and doing all of that when I had like no skills in that, it was very like rewarding. And it was just based on like us helping each other out and just having the motivation to like move forward with this project. So I think that it was very memorable. Just EWH in general is memorable for the skills that you get to learn, because you're just kind of thrown into these situations that like you don't know how to solve, but like in reality it's easier than it sounds to kind of like start learning. So I think that is really cool. In general, I just want to say that like it's also memorable to work with teams. I think this org really kind of like teaches you a lot about working with other people and like leadership and like communication and how to, you know, set up meetings and just work with other people, which is like very, very useful in college in general. So I think those are some of my memories.
I think Tafa and Christine have sort of described it really well. Personally, for me, I've got to say that some of the most memorable stuff has just been the people I've met. It's been really cool, you know, just sort of becoming part of the community and just having a lot of fun with it, you know, just at the socials, playing board games. We had this retreat thing that was great, you know, going on, having a bonfire and like foraging for wood and stuff. I don't know. It's been a great time just hanging out with these people, you know.
I just kind of want to reiterate what Jamie was saying. I mean, there's a lot of favorite things I have about working on the project last year, but at the same time, none of those would have been as rewarding or as fun if my team hadn't just been absolutely stellar. So shout out to all of you guys, you know who you are. And I think that's the beauty of working in EWH on a project team, is that you find a lot of like-minded people who are passionate about the same things as you and who are excited to come to meetings every week. And that's pretty rare in just like your average day-to-day class.
I can talk a little bit about my experience. I want to reinforce what Jamie and Delilah said. I think the best part of being in a student org for me was all the friends that I made, because as a freshman especially, I was so nervous about meeting people, and coming from a really small school, I didn't know how to handle big lecture classes and interacting with people that way. And being part of a community like a student org really helped me get to know people and make a lot of friends. Um, Also, I think my favorite experience was, I think in general, the growth that you can have when you're in those projects and you're dedicating your time to it. I didn't come in with a lot of skills, and I was lucky to have a good project team leader and during my first year, and she was very supportive to everyone, and she made sure that all of us were learning skills and not just doing a part of a project. We were all contributing to it. So I felt like an important part of what I did, and I think it was nice to have our final project be like to see our final project and to know that I had a major contribution to it.
Josh, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. So for me, I joined EWH as a freshman last year, and it was just one of the. I didn't join too many clubs. EWH was one of my main clubs throughout the year, and my project was the cold chain storage for vaccines project. And although I didn't think like I was like a giant contributor or anything, I feel like it was like a really good introduction into what it was like to work in an engineering project, like the whole process of prototyping and researching and doing everything was like this great intro experience to college, and just what it was like to work as an engineer. Even though I wasn't necessarily an engineering major, it was great to interact with all these different people, learn from them, and learn how to contribute in the future for this club.
And I think we're gonna skip over Rita, unless Rita, you're okay to chat. I know you had said that you were in a room. You could chat in.
Can you guys hear me? I can like talk very quietly.
Yeah, that's good if it's
Okay.
closer.
So like my most memorable moment was like because our project like doesn't go in a straight way. Kind of goes like we're switching like direction for a lot of time. And oh, by the way, I was also like with Delilah, we are doing the connective shoes like at the beginning. Like we kind of like switch into like doing a sensor at the very end of the project, which we didn't have the chance to finish, but like I still think that's like a very great experience. And I also feel like the experience of like working with people like very closely in a 4 to 5 people group is it's just like valuable. Like before my first meeting, I cannot like even remember everyone's name in the group. I have to like open Slack before I enter the room and like try to memorize everyone before I step in so I can call on everyone. But like things start to like move more smoothly after that. So I feel like the personal skill and like all the hard time we went through is really a very great experience.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just touch on the last question here and kind of go out of order. But the how to feel involved on campus. We're all clearly very biased because we are heavily involved in student orgs, but I really do always say that I think that is the easiest way to get involved and to, like Delilah said, find a community of people who are passionate about the same things as you and excited to be doing the same things as you. So whether it's EWH, another engineering org, a social org, a cultural org, really anything, there is a huge variety at UCSD for any and all interests. And yes, talking to people over Zoom is not going to be the same as being in person, but I think I like to joke with one of my friends that being virtual really requires you to be a little shameless. So to just kind of get over it. It's going to be awkward for everyone. And we all feel uncomfortable doing this. We all feel uncomfortable trying to meet people this way. I know it's really hard for me to like sign into info sessions like this and come in with my camera on and contribute. But we promise we won't bite. The other orgs will not bite. We're all just here to try to make some friends, learn some skills, and get you guys as connected as we possibly can. Even though this year doesn't look the same as it normally would. What is underrated about UCSD? Anybody want to claim that one?
I can say something about, oh, well, no, you go. I don't know who went first.
So this might not be immediately relevant this first year or two, but I gotta say the UCSD campus is pretty incredible. It's has a lot of really nice green spaces on it. It's really big and it's just so nice to walk through. I'd say, you know, it might not be safe at the present moment, but I think it'll be, oh yeah, so you really definitely work your walking skills. It's, I gotta say, I've never been healthier since I started walking around UCSD.
Yeah, I was gonna say a similar thing. Like there's a lot of spaces and resources like you don't know about until you actually start being there. And there's so many that you keep discovering them. Like this is my 5th year and I keep finding like resources, spaces, groups, like of things to do at UCSD. So I think that's very like underrated, like how much it has to offer in reality.
I think for me, yes, we have a really great campus, but I think to me the best part of UCSD is like how welcoming everyone is, and how I know that we're like famous for being antisocial, but I don't think that's the case. It really is. I feel like once you reach out to people, everyone's very welcoming to you, and you can try and keep in contact with them, especially like once you find your own like community of people, be that in like from your college or from your dorm or from student org. I think you always, because the campus is so big, you can always find someone that has something in common with you.
And then just speaking about going off what Christy was saying about resource centers, there's this really cool place on campus. I hate to do that to you all, but I think they're doing a good job of transitioning this fall into becoming more of an online resource. They're called The Zone, and they're essentially like a wellness slash meditation slash yoga slash free tea. Not anymore, but maybe in the future you'll get to experience it. And The Zone is just essentially trying to promote health and wellness, because that's an important, like, that comes first. If you're not healthy, yes, and then they have therapy fluffies, although that's in the future. But they offer this really cool program called the Wellbeing Leadership Award, which they're going to start. I think they're going to find remote options for it. I'll keep our Facebook updated about this because I really love The Zone. But it's essentially just reminding everyone that your health and wellness comes before anything, even education. So that's really important.
Let's see, what's it like being an engineering major at UCSD? I think it's a little bit the same as where you would go anywhere. It can be difficult. Um, I think that's kind of the nature of it. Your first 2 years are a lot of sort of the GE classes or the lower division one. So it's kind of fun because it's a room full of engineers all trying to suffer their way through physics together. But that's nice because there's a lot of people across a lot of engineering majors all trying to figure it all out at once. And then as you progress further in your degree, you get closer into who's in your major and the professors that show up consistently for your major. So I think being an engineering major is really hard, but there's also a really strong community for it. And there is a lot of resources for it. So like my number one resource that I used was the Idea Center has like tutoring sessions for some of those lower division classes. So that saved my butt in physics. But it was like a weekly 2-hour session where essentially a TA would come and teach a review session and would help you with practice problems, and before midterms and finals would give you practice tests and help you out with that. And it's entirely free and you just had to sign up for it. So I think there's a lot of resources that are very helpful for that. There's also a ton of resources if you are not an engineering major. So like Delilah said, there's so many different places on campus that are all aimed at different things. So just really do your best to reach out for those. And I guarantee that everyone else is trying to figure it out just as much as you are.
And like adding to that really quickly, something that she said, like the community is like for a university that is so like high ranked in engineering, I did not expect people to be that helpful in all of my classes. Like there's a lot of schools that are very famous for being like very competitive. And like, to be honest, at least in my personal experience, like every single class I've had in my engineering career here, like I've always found a group of people that are willing to like help each other out, work together, and like, you know, like suffer together kind of thing, which is something that is very nice in such a difficult major, you know, like to have supportive members, classmates.
I think an advice to all engineering majors is, yes, like what Christy said is good, is like if you reach out to people, they'll usually help you out. And it's nice to be able to create like a study group or something, and then so that everyone helps each other, or go to all the resources that are offered to you. But also keep in mind, engineering is hard, and most of the classes in UCSD are hard. So don't be scared if like you're not doing as well as you're expecting to in like your first year, because that's really the year that you're adjusting to things. And especially, I think with majors like engineering, you like most people are expecting to do super well, but in general, you end up learning a lot, even if you don't get a grade that's as high as you would expect. So I think it's a double-edged sword, but it's a good thing that you're still like, you're gonna find out that there's skills that you've learned in your class that you thought you didn't do so well, but that you still gained from that. Yeah. So just keep in mind that everyone's improving throughout time.
Okay, and then our last few general questions that we received, a lot about research and other opportunities. So for other clubs that are similar to EWH, there are a few that I mentioned before that we work with pretty regularly. So Engineers for a Sustainable World is focused more on sustainability, as the name suggests. And Engineers Without Borders is a bit similar to us as well, with focusing on low-income communities or rural communities, but they are more focused on overall general health and wellness, while we are a bit more focused on the medical side of things. There also is a million other orgs. If you are interested in engineering related orgs, there is an event week 1 that is called Engineers on the Green. It'll be held virtually through Discord this year, where you can go and talk with any and all orgs, and they'll have descriptions of what all of them are like. There's also a website through the school that lists all of the student orgs that are registered through the school. And so it is a list that just goes on in alphabetical order, everything from frats, sororities, philanthropic, government related, social, sports, games, everything really. So definitely suggest just scrolling through there and seeing what catches your eye, and then try searching them either on the web or on Facebook is usually where a lot of them are, if not linked on that website to where to find them.
I can say a little bit more about like the research opportunities on campus. So basically, there's a lot of different ways to get involved in research on campus. I think one of the most I guess the one that I hear the most about is to talk to a professor or a graduate student. So there is this thing that the school offers that is called like um, coffee or lunch with a professor. That it's like the school pays for the coffee or the lunch opportunity, and you like just take out a professor to talk with them. Can be a bit like overwhelming, like, oh, like, do I really want to do that? But it is a really cool opportunity. I've heard about like they are trying to kind of like move that into a virtual setting, where you can like talk to a professor still. But I think that is one of the best ways to get involved in research, just because they get very excited about you being interested in what they do and what they've done. So that is like one of the main ways to get involved in that. You like talk to a professor, you talked about their research, you say that you say that you're interested in what they're doing, and they usually either like tell you a little bit more about how you can get involved in their lab or in their research, or they like direct you to someone else that might be able to offer you what you want. They're very helpful usually with that. I got involved in a research summer, like a summer opportunity research thing. And that is how it happened. Basically, I just talked to the professor. And that is how a lot of my friends have gotten research before. There are other, I guess, like platforms that you can use. But as of like in general, that is one of the main ways. Also just looking up the faculty and looking up their labs. A lot of the times they already have their like lab applications online, and you can just kind of get involved in their lab by like finding that application and then just following up with them.
I think to add on to that a little bit, I know that for me, I was always really intimidated to go up to a professor because they're all so established, and I didn't know if I was like qualified enough to join a lab or anything. But I think a way that you can approach people and try to get your foot in the door to is to ask your TAs or what they do, and maybe if they talk about their lab a little bit and you're interested, you can ask them to tour their lab. And most times, I don't know right now, but they'll probably talk about it. Most times they are very willing to show you around, and they try to help you get started with research opportunities.
Okay, so just in the interest of time, I do see that it is 6:30 and we said this would be an hour. So we're going to kind of wrap up and then we're going to stop the recording. But if you want to stay or if you have any other questions, we will be hanging around until everyone leaves. So please, if you have any questions, just stick around and let us know. If you need to get going, that is good too. We hope that this answered some of your questions and hopefully sparked a little bit of interest in EWH. Again, go follow us on any of our social media or anywhere to find us, and we will do our best to keep in contact with you and let you know what we're doing as the year gets closer. So we hope to see you all very soon. We're going to end the recording and then let you guys ask questions.